Manavi, thank you for joining in.
Yeah, hi Arvind. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, congrats again on all three admits to the top Indian B schools. That's really good, and yeah, congrats again.
Thank you so much, Arvind.
Right. So the goal of this debrief Manavi, is to sort of hear about you, about your journey, and with the goal or hope that will help future candidates that are applying to business schools, ISB, IIMs, etc. Right. So we'll sort of start with your background and we'll touch on some of the application process, CV, essays, interviews. I mean, you attended all three, which are, I think, quite different interview processes, right? ISB and even each of the IIMs. And then we'll sort of wrap it up with tips or insights that we have for candidates.
Arvind.
So yeah, let's start with your background. So where are you from? If you can talk about your upbringing, experience, and what you do, etc. professionally.
So I'm originally from Shimla, Himachal Pradesh, and I've completed my engineering in information technology from MIT Manipal. And since the time I've been graduated, I've been working with Deloitte USIE in the tech consulting division of it. And specifically in tech consulting, I've been working as a quality assurance engineer, and wherein our main goal is has been making sure that whatever products that are being developed, whatever technical solutions that the team is coming up with, it is in line with the business requirements of the clients.
Right. So can you talk a bit about your role? I mean, it's a mix of, I think, tech and consulting. Right? So
Right,
what kind of projects do you work in? Who do you work with?
right. So, primarily our projects have been across multiple domains. Like I've been involved in products for the US state-based healthcare system. So in that case, our clients were the government or the state government of California, state government of Washington, the US postal system. There have been other products wherein our clients have been different Canadian companies, for example, who are looking at reducing their carbon footprint. So that was for an ESG product. So I've gotten the opportunity to interact with clients from different geographies and interact with them and understand their requirements and then translate those requirements in stories so that it is actionable and can be used by the software development team for translating it into as final technical solution. So I've been involved, I can say, at both ends, both at the requirement gathering side, also indirectly, and more directly in the technical aspect of the solutions.
Good. And, besides your role, you've also been involved in award ceremonies, right, within your.
Right, right.
So talk a bit about that.
Right. So apart from the technical work, I was involved in the rewards and recognition committee of Deloitte for about 2.5 years. The basic intent was to ensure that everyone is feeling involved, everyone is feeling rewarded for the efforts that they are putting in. And I really noticed like people who were not that confident before, once they were recognized by the managers, by even their peers, not even by a formal award, let's say just by a shout out or something, there was a remarkable difference in their confidence. So I really loved being part of that committee as well. It showed me a different side of, the corporate life, as we say.
So anyway, it's saying, I mean, technically it's an extracurricular because it's not part of your role, but it blends in both your sort of professional life and personal life. Right? Yeah.
Correct.
So so when did the thought of an MBA first come to you? What was the motivation, right? I mean, why did you want to do an MBA?
Right. So, as I was involved indirectly in the requirement gathering aspect of the products and more directly in the technical implementation, I found myself being more and more interested in uh, the requirement gathering, the decision making side per se. I found myself being interested in being able to take the decisions of driving a product, that okay, this feature is something that I find interesting, this is something that I think is more valuable to the users of our application. So that was the first motivation. And slowly, and then I understood that there are different pieces to the puzzle that I am not aware of right now. For example, why a certain feature is more important right now, because it will help us to have, let's say, a competitive edge over our competitors. So there comes the marketing angle, um, the strategy angle, understanding the market dynamics, and then coming up with products. I realized along the line that I'm interested in it, but there are gaps that I need to fill. There are things that I need to learn, and that's when I realized that MBA is going to be the right next step for me.
How did you go about, preparing for the GRE? I mean, first, I thought, why GMAT versus GRE? How do you make that decision? And how was your preparation process like for GRE?
Right, right. So, for me, honestly, I thought that GRE has more focus on vocabulary and how we interpret a certain comprehension. I was always more inclined towards reading lots of fiction books. So I thought that since reading fast comes naturally to me, I should play on my strengths. Since with a full-time job, I'll be having limited time to prepare for whatever exam I choose to go for. So I decided to play on my strengths rather than, develop skills which probably I would have not been that good at. So that's why I decided to take the GRE.
How
And
did you
coming
prepare?
to the preparation, yeah. So I started preparing for the GRE in 2024 January. And for I took I took like three attempts to get my target score. For my first score, I primarily relied on the books that I found had helped other people. There were some free YouTube videos as well. There was the basic 800 GRE Baron vocabulary book, Manhattan 5 LP book. But when I gave my first attempt, I realized that there are a lot of gaps that I need to cover. For example, I realized just going through the vocabulary and understanding few implementations of it is not going to suffice. I need to really work on my comprehension skills and implementation of the vocab. And also for the quants, I need to be faster. Um, so after that, I prepared using GregMat, and there's a um Reddit subreddit also for the GregMat people I think who have subscribed to it and who are preparing similarly for the GRE. That community also like really helped me. If I had a question, if I didn't understand something for a particular lecture, I used to ask in that subreddit, and other people across the world who were also preparing, they would answer, they would help me. So that also was I think a very important thing that helped me move forward with my doubts, and not just being stuck on one particular doubt since you're sitting and preparing at home. And then of course giving the mocks, mini mocks, and lots of practice helped me to get my score.
You had a pretty strong score by 336, which is pretty good. It does help, right? I mean, I think contrary to what some people might believe, the score is, an important part of the process. It's not the only part, of course, there's other elements, which we'll get to, but it does, increase your odds of, within the competitive pool, right?
Right, and I do believe that because by the time I gave my second attempt, my score was 326. Lots of websites I read on it said it's like the average score for, let's say, admission to ISB or to others as well. It's it's a score I can count on for getting at least an interview invite. That's what I read at a lot of places. But from my end, I wanted to be sure because I felt that probably I would lack on some other extracurricular things that others might have. So I thought from my end, I should strengthen whatever I can and whatever I can do right now. I cannot go back and add on extracurriculars from college and school life, but let me do what I can.
Let's talk a bit about prioritizing the schools, right? I mean, you are clear, I think, from the upfront ISB and IIM schools that you want to target. So, what is your criteria? I mean, you could have even applied to other schools, right? Score is strong, work experience is good, US, Europe, etc. So, what is the reason for prioritizing Indian schools and in these three in particular?
So by the time that I realized that I wanted to go for an MBA back in 2024, I already had 4 years of experience. So one thing was for sure that I want to do a 1 year MBA, not a 2 year MBA. Coming to 1 year MBA, there are a lot of options abroad, but seeing the current geopolitical scenario and also, um, you know, the ROI. I wanted to go with India because I want to stay close with my friends and family, and I um, think that there are great schools here as well. And that's why I thought that going abroad, and especially taking so much of risk will not make sense at this point of time when I can get almost similar education by staying close to everyone here. And in India, primarily the top B schools, ISB, IIM-A, IIM-B for the 1 year MBA. These were the ones that I was looking at. Since I did not have a GMAT score, I didn't look at IMC because there they require a GMAT score. So I went ahead with these three.
So, let's talk broadly in terms of the profile and application strategy itself. What are some aspects that you feel in terms of your academics, work experience, etc.? What are some angles or those that you feel help you stand out? Right, we discussed the GRE score, but besides that, in
Right.
terms of these schools, what are some aspects you feel sort of help you stand out?
think uh, I think working across multiple domains and being able to showcase that I have transferable skills. Um, for example, I wrote in my applications that I'm looking to branch into strategy consulting, or um, if that doesn't work out, then product management is also something I'm interested in. So my current work experience, working in multiple projects across different domains, I think helped me showcase my ability to understand wide range of problems and to sort of have that problem solving mindset. So I think that helped my applications. And I also believe that the anecdotes that I mentioned, whether it was from the personal angle, I mentioned about, for example, my father's loss of business, or whether it was the uh, my health issue. Whatever I mentioned, I made sure that it was something that was coming from my heart and something that not just for the sake of the essay prompt. So I think that helped my essays come out as unique.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, like, especially for ISP, but even IIMs, both
Right,
essays and interviews, prompts have, I would say, become kind of similar to global schools, right? It's more introspective, talking about your strengths
right.
or even weaknesses, leadership abilities, like, why did you want to do an MBA through anecdotes and so on and so forth. So let's talk a bit about the application process itself, right? So it's much like CV, essays, interview. But before we go to the interviews, just mainly on the CV and essays, can you talk a bit about how our working process was like, and then sort of the iterations that we did and, what worked for you, etc., and how it helped.
Right. Uh, so I think before even talking about the CVs, which was our first step, and then the essay prompts, I think I would really like to mention the street map questionnaire that you shared with me. So I remember reaching out to you um, through your email, and then you shared a questionnaire with me. And when I opened it, I realized the personalized level of attention that I'm going to be getting from you, because the questions in it, whether it is why you want to opt for a certain B school, or whether it was regarding strengths, weaknesses, my top career achievements, all the questions in it, whatever, it was in so much depth and detail. It took me, I think, more than a day to be able to, prepare all my answers. But I think spending time there really laid a foundation for whatever work we did after that. So I referred to that document a lot. Even before my interviews, if I was feeling overwhelmed, I would go back to that document. So I think that was a really important step. After that, I think we had one personalized call before the CV preparation as well, wherein you asked me about myself and some key, occurrences in my life, whether it is personal, professional. So I think that really eased our conversations going forward. It enabled us to get to know each other so that we could, you could help me translate my story and we could come up with whatever points we need for SOPs, essays. So that was also, I would say, a really great foundational step. Um, After that, I think CV was something that I was being really afraid of, that how, we're going to be able to compress all my 5 years of work experience into a one-page document. Especially for me, since I was not actively seeking any job opportunities throughout my career, I had not updated my CV after college. So to be able to then update it on such a short time and with 5 years of work and also with that thing in mind that it has to be precise, but you don't want to cut off all your achievements as well. So I think you helping in that regard was really helpful. And when the CV finally came through after multiple iterations, I couldn't believe, comparing it from the first draft, comparing it from where we had started, where it was, I think, a 3-4 page long document with haphazard points and long paragraphs, and then seeing it, compressed into a very great, precise, to the point document. I think that was a great experience. And essays wise also, Arvind, I think since ISB was the first school I applied to, uh, I was having a lot of doubts on how to begin an essay with, like, do we need a formal introduction? How do we start? How do we, transition from one instance to the other? How do we bring it to a word limit? Does it have to be extremely formal? Does it, like, what is the level of formal English that you need? It should be not sound too robotic and bookish as well, but at the same time you don't want it to sound too informal. So I think all those doubts that I had, you really helped me with. And over the multiple iterations we went through for each essay, especially I think essay two of ISB is something that we spent a lot of time on. It really helped me. And once I think the ISB application was done, IIM-B and IIM-A essays were easy to write because I already had the basic structure as well as the pointers in my mind. And um, so then translating it to an SOP and then the IIM-A essays was really easy because we've done the major groundwork already through our ISB applications.
Let's talk about the interview process, right? You were shortlisted for all three schools, and so each has a separate process, right? ISB, there's VAT and interviews, and then there's an extempore and IIM and so on. Can you talk a bit about your experience interviewing with these schools?
Right. So since ISB was my first interview out of the three, since I'd applied for R1 of ISB, uh, uh, I would say I was prepared because I think ISB has a certain uh, few questions that they ask a lot of candidates. And with your help, like, I was already prepared for those basic questions, like, you know, um, walking about talking about your CV, then what are your post MBA goals? What will happen if your primary goal doesn't work out? So there were some basic questions that I was already prepared for. So I would say that was something that went smoothly. But the other part of the interview of ISB was mostly focused on AI. So in my application, I had mentioned doing a POC on one of the AIs and particularly how AI can help our role as a QA and where what are its shortcomings when it comes to our role. So there was a really great, really long discussion, I would say. My majority of the interview was about, what are the shortcomings of AI, and what are the different things that AI has been able to do in your field. And, do you think that AI can replace your current role? And if not, then why? And if it can replace, then how do you plan to, still ensure that you're employed? So there were a lot of discussions around it. So that was something I would say not totally unexpected, but something that I think I was uh, I was prepared for, because I had read about it and it was a part of my job. But I would say that was a little bit unexpected. But a lot of like, considering like more than 50% of the interview time was allotted to it. So that was a little bit of a surprise for me, considering the level of depth they will go to question about the AI. But I think for the ISB mainly, what really worked out in the interview was, uh, being true to what you had written. And I think not only just ISB, the IIMs as well, and I think other B schools as well, since the interviewers are seasoned professionals, they know they can catch you if you've written something that, is not correct, or something that, you've uh, overestimated, over exaggerated your achievements or something. I think they have a way of very cleverly getting that out of you. So I think what really worked out for me in all the three was that I had written exactly what I had done, nothing more, nothing less. So that was in terms of the ISB. And for the IIM A and B, I would say IIM-B interview went mostly on discussing the specific domain of one of the products I had worked on. So since I had worked on a state-based healthcare product for uh, US state. Mostly the discussions revolved around how the landscape of healthcare is changing in US now. What are the changes that have come in the recent years? And they wanted to know my views on universal healthcare, etc. And also contrasting universal healthcare in US to that of UK. I think mostly what they wanted to test was how well I'm able to uh, reason and bring forward my points and have a logical reasoning behind it. They questioned everything I said, but they wanted to check whether I'm able to answer everything rationally, whether I have a reason for whatever I say. So I think that, and I'm able to stick to my point while also acknowledging their differing opinion, but still I'm able to defend my point with a rational viewpoint. So I think that's what they were trying to really test in the IMB interview. IIM-A started with an extempore, and there was a lot of questioning, cross questioning on whatever stance I had taken there. And the rest of the interview was mostly describing my job, and I would say defending my job. They wanted to know that how my role as a QA is not redundant, because they felt that. The client side also does some amount of software testing from their end. So how is my role by sitting in the solution side, not redundant? And how do I ensure that I do not have a bias since I'm on the solution aspect of it and not the client side? So that was also more of a discussion, I would say.
You recall the extempore topic? What was it about?
Yeah, so they gave me so they allow you to take two chits, and whatever you can, like, let go of the first, but whatever comes up the second, you have to go with it. So in my case, the first one was something I don't recall, but I do remember that I thought that, okay, this is something I don't want to get into. It was something rather political, so I didn't go with it. The second one that came was that whether India is the, sorry, whether real estate is the biggest market for black money in India. So I had to take a stance on that. So I went with yes in that case, that yeah, I do think that it's one of the sources of black money. So then there was a lot of cross questioning on it, and there were kind of a discussion on what even do you consider black money, and it really like went into all sort of directions.
Okay, great. So let's talk a bit about the mock interview process, right? We did the three mocks. We also did one with Daksh, right, our ISB. mentor. So how did that process help you? And because there's a balance between, let's say, practicing and not over practicing it, because you don't want to sound too scripted either
Correct.
when you go to interviews. So talk a bit
Correct.
about how the interview preparation.
Right, right. So I think uh, the one mock interview that I gave with you, I mean, that really, really helped me. I think the first mock interview I gave with you, uh, I was very nervous. I did not have a correct structure in mind for my answers. Uh, so even if I wanted to, if I knew, the crux of what I wanted to say, it did not come out in a structured manner. I think the feedback that you gave me, what I did from my end, the feedback that you gave me, I think that document is still present in your shared uh, Google folders. I noted all of it down and I sort of revised all my answers according to the feedback that you'd given. So, based on that, we had the another mock interview in which, based on your feedback, I had incorporated the points and I was able to, structure my answers in a in a proper way. So I would say that yeah, sounding robotic is a uh, major red flag, as you also had pointed out. But I would say like for people who do tend to get up tensed, probably writing the things down, whatever feedback you get from, let's say, you or from somebody else, and then practicing it yourself in front of the mirror, or maybe in front of just a webcam, really helped me. It ensured that it was not robotic, but at least I had a structure in mind, and I could use the answers from whatever mock questions that you had given me in other places as well. Um, Obviously, like whatever, like an interview can go in any direction. There can be thousands of questions, but since we had covered a lot of things, like for example, situational questions, also shortcomings, my weaknesses, strengths, etc. I could use those answers in other places in the interview.
Good then. So let's wrap it up. So what are your tips for candidates that are to business schools, ISB and AIP? So what are your tips or pieces of advice that you want candidates to think of?
So I would say that for the candidates, it is very important to uh, take sufficient amount of time. I think for many people it might not be possible. In my case, I did not apply the year I got my score. I wanted to take some time for introspection, and I think that really helped. So I think that rushing into things as soon as you get the score might not be the best for everyone. If you are already sure on what you want to do and you already, have a structure in mind about your post MBA goals, why MBA, then maybe it might be good for you. But if you have a little bit, and if you need a little bit time in that regard, probably it is best to, spend some months thinking through. So I think that is really important to be first sure on what you want to do. And even if you're not sure on it, you can, I think in my case, after we started the process, the street map questionnaire that I was talking about, a lot of things that I was unsure about, I got to be sure about it after, getting in contact with you. So even if you are unsure, that's okay, but you can contact somebody who can, guide you through. But rushing, I would say, like they should definitely avoid. And then, of course, being true to what you've experienced and, not exaggerating things in essays or in CVs. I think that is very important.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you again, Maurice, for your time, and
Yeah, thank you
I'm
so
sure it'll
much.
help future candidates. And all the best for your journey ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Arvind, for all your help. Like, none of this would have been possible without you.
Thank you, my pleasure. All the best.
Thanks, Arvind.